I'm gonna start this video off by asking Mama Strike a question.
Oh, geez.
Let's just pretend that it's just a normal day,
Okay.
and somebody comes up to you on the street. They're all haggard and crazy. Their clothes are all torn,
I
and
punch him.
well, smart move. Definitely smart move. But they come up to you, and their eyes are crazed, and eyes that have seen things and heard things that you've not yet had a chance to.
Okay.
And they tell you that out in the galaxy, there's some kind of creature with the collective consciousness of billions, and it is sending its own desiccated, hungry army to our galaxy. What would you say to that?
No, I would like to cease existing at that point. No. No, thank you.
Well, unless for those who are not as well read in as others, I'm talking about the Graveminds from the Halo franchise.
Okay.
And we're going to have the delightful opportunity to have Hidden Xperia clue us in more towards all the information on the Graveminds. And I'm definitely excited for this video because this kind of falls into just the tippy tip end of the Halloween season, where we still feel spooky around here at First Strike Cosplay. And I wanted to give you guys a chance to listen to probably one of the most horrific versions of cosmic horror there is, and that being the Gravemind. So we'll let him next take it away. Welcome to Strike Team Reacts.
There is much talk, and I have listened through rock and metal and time. Now I shall talk, and you shall listen.
Hey guys, welcome back.
That was a diabolical intro. That was awesome.
Today, as per, we are continuing the Flood lore series. Today, looking at the different forms of Gravemind. Now, if you want to read any deeper into the history of the Gravemind than what I can cover in 10 minutes, then I would suggest reading the Forerunner trilogy, which details the entire origin story of the Flood, and also their war against the Forerunners. Now, it just so happens that all three of these books are on Audible, and if you sign up for a free trial using audibletrial.com/hiddenxperia, not only do you massively help me and the channel out, you can also get one of these three books for completely free, for nada, and you can...
So firstly, yes, absolutely. I'm going to make sure that his link is down in the description below for you guys. Those three books, I'll go ahead and backtrack it so they're on screen for y'all. These are amazing. If you're into wanting to learn more about the Forerunners, the hows, the whys, the whos, and the whens, this is a great franchise. A great trilogy by Greg Bear. He's lauded as a very great, I keep using the adjective great, really amazing sci-fi writer in the community. He did pass away, so rest in peace. It's always awful when an amazing creator loses their life, but they're hopefully he's in a better place. But his the way he explained things in this trilogy is really amazing. I have my own recommendations. So if you do pick up Audible using Hidden X's code, I personally recommend Halo: The Flood. If you ever wanted to get more clues and information onto the happenings and events of Halo Combat Evolved, that does a very great novelization by William C. Dietz. It goes into like Chief's mindset through things. You get to see the real awful horror of how flood infection works. You get to learn more about Jenkins and his tragedy that we've mentioned in past videos. And that's a great one. If you wanted to understand how Chief became the Chief, listening to Halo: The Fall of Rage is also an amazing listen as well. But cool. I digress. Let's get back into it.
To get one of these three books for completely free, for nada, and you can also cancel your trial at any point. Link is right at the top of the description if you want to try any of this out, but without any further ado, let's get into some juicy Flood lore. So the role of a Gravemind is to serve as a central intelligence, a governing body of local Flood forms which allows them to be more coordinated, efficient, and deadly. However, Graveminds don't...
I think this is why, in my personal opinion, the Flood are probably the pinnacle of, I'm gonna say, quote, zombie or undead monsters, because as and outside of Halo lore, I love zombie lore. I love zombies and zombie content
Yes,
too.
you do.
It started off being scared as shit of them when I was a kid, but it soon became, as I got older, an appreciation for the fear and like kind of like the existential dread of like a shambling mob of zombies coming to seal your doom kind of thing. But imagine a zombie horde with one boss zombie just somewhere in the area coordinating them like a friggin' conductor in an orchestra. It is that idea, and not only is it just one human intelligence, it is the intelligences of every living being in a light years or more range, billions of lives, like I said in our intro, coordinating a mass army of the undead. It is, it's horrifying.
It's
definitely fit for the spooky season.
Just appear at the beginning of an outbreak. Combat forms have to actually operate without them for a short while until they can gather enough biomass from host species, so gathering the bodies of humans and elites, for example. These bodies are then combined into that big green mass that we saw in Combat Evolved, a proto-gravemind, which allows for the unification of all the intelligence and minds of the bodies used, and provides a sort of temporary central intelligence for the Flood. The information from the minds of the host used is gathered via a form of interrogation, where the nervous system of the host unconsciously feeds information to the Gravemind, while all logical thought and reasoning within the person is suppressed by this really odd loud buzzing sound.
I mentioned Hail the Flood, the book. It goes into Captain Keyes, who's on screen right now, his specific fight with a I always say keymind, a proto gravemind. It's very few times in listening or reading the books have I felt a level of dread like the scene. It goes into so much more detail, and it's just this mental fight between Keyes and the proto gravemind as it is slowly consuming his memories, and with every memory consumed, it's a memory lost.
I know.
And there's this beautiful, and it's beautiful in a macabre way. There's this beautiful, consistent theme in this. I'll call it a vignette in the story, that every time he's trying to keep the coordinates and location of Earth safe.
Okay.
And what he realizes is that he can throw these memories out as, let's call it, chaff, for this proto gravemind to feast on, as he hopes to God somebody can come and kill him so it doesn't take those last few morsels of information.
Gotcha.
And one of the things he does to keep him grounded, to remind him of who he is he keeps repeating his name, rank, and serial number.
Oh.
And it's just always like, let's say memory 1, 2, and 3 are gone. And he goes, Keyes, Jacob, serial number, da 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 da. I'll throw it on screen because I don't remember it, unfortunately. And it goes on. And then eventually he goes, name, Jacob, Keyes, Jacob, serial number, 1, 2, 3. And it's, in my personal opinion, I love how it's narrated in the audiobook. And it just does such a great service to showing the horror of these, the ways that the Flood gets this information.
Well, yeah, cool. Because that's the most terrifying thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Is that you're like alive, but not, and then your memories are just being siphoned from you.
That's a great way to say it.
Yeah, that is, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
The proto-gravemind is done with the host, it just kills them. This method of unification allows for the proto-gravemind to become sort of specialized if it needs to, for a specific task. For example, if it needed to learn the coordinates for Earth, then it would exclusively be created from human bodies and minds. It's for this reason that many prophets were used in proto-gravemines. Their vast knowledge and information stores served as a nice basis for them, as well as giving them the required information to be able to pilot things like Covenant cruisers. Now, even though combat forms can pilot small vehicles like warthogs or ghosts, they can't just innately pilot cruisers. They need a proto-gravemind with the sufficient knowledge to be able to do so. The reason proto-gravemines themselves can't just pilot ships is because they're completely immobile. At least as far as we know, they're essentially just a hyper-intelligent mass of bodies and biomass, with the sole...
See, I almost liken a proto-gravemind, or even a gravemind, to as a CPU for a computer. Like, it does all the processing, it does all the information gathering, it does all of the task delegation, and then the rest of the Flood carry out those tasks.
Yeah.
Intention of improving the current outbreak's intelligence and efficiency by providing them with a central intelligence, which in turn helps them evolve through the 4 stages of the Flood and become far, far deadlier. To evolve into a full-blown gravemind, a real significant amount of mass and intelligence must be gathered and assimilated by the Flood. Gravemines are basically just hyper-advanced, bigger and more deadly proto-gravemines that are made up of a shitload of combined bodies and minds. As you'd expect, the more biomass a proto-gravemind gathers, the bigger it gets, which is why the one in Halo Wars was significantly larger than the one in Combat Evolved. It was likely just further along the stage of evolution.
Oh, that's just so gross looking. It looks like a cross between a mushroom and a pulsing heart.
I mean, it's supposed to be scary and gross and all the things, but the art is just crazy.
Yeah.
It's literally, and I don't like scary stuff. So watching all this grosses me out a lot. But the art is insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that the bigger it gets as well, the more abilities and features it gets. Like the one in Halo Wars was able to jam radio signals, which hasn't been seen in one before. So it's likely that the bigger it gets, the more abilities it gets. When it reaches what is known as a critical mass and garners a central intelligence, the proto-gravemind formally becomes a gravemind. Now, there are only 2 gravemines in the entirety of Halo history that we actually know a significant amount of detail about. Of course, one of them was the outcome of the containment breach on Installation 05 that happened 100,000 years ago or something around that, where the Flood were basically just left to fester and grow in the depths of Installation 05 for an insane amount of time. And the other gravemind was during the Foreigner Flood War, over 100,000 years ago. So, with all this in mind, let's segue into the next gravemind form, the standard gravemind that we all know and love.
Your prophets have promised you freedom from a doomed existence.
I love that line. The prophets have offered you freedom from a doomed existence. When essentially the Flood is I would say, living or undead embodiment of doom.
Yeah.
It's very cool that it's almost like recognizes like, and it's essentially just giving you no holds barred truth. But look at this awful package we're seeing on screen. It's, how can one have hope when something like this is telling you that your existence is doomed? It's terrible.
But you will find no salvation on this ring.
So, as we've already established, gravemines are formed when enough bodies are supplied to a proto-gravemind by combat forms, and it reaches this critical mass of size and intelligence. At this point, the gravemind becomes self-aware, giving it a personality, a consciousness, and allowing it to regain the memories and experiences of the last gravemind.
Now that's a really cool idea. As I wonder, for however long Halo lasts as a franchise or a series or whatever, what other Graveminds might be created? What would their goals be? What would they end up doing? That would be really cool to see. Almost kind of like how the monitors are. 343 Guilty Spark, 2401 Penitent Tangent, so on and so forth. I wonder, if they would ever explore or if they already have, you guys can let me know in the comments below. Different grave minds, and maybe do they know? Well, they would obviously know of each other, but would they fight? Would they squabble? Would they ever disagree on things? That'd be
yeah, like can they play well together,
yeah.
kind of thing.
And I almost wonder if that's almost a silly question to ask, because when you are part of the flood, you are part of a tidal wave. Like you're not.
Right.
So I wonder if it'll be all like we're all for one for all kind of a thing, where we are all the same, but we are different in our own way, or if it literally is like this is Gravemind 1 with personality 1, and then Gravemind 2 with personality 2. But
Or is there one that's just a nasty bitch on the side,
right,
and is like, I'm gonna make you other three fight with each other,
mm-hmm.
so that you each like eat each other, whatever, so
Yeah.
that they each one of them gets stronger, and then she's over there in the corner waiting.
Yeah.
And then once those dwindle down,
Mm-hmm.
she takes over that
Yeah.
last one.
That would be really interesting to see, and I doubt anybody from Halo would ever see this video, but that would be a very interesting way to look into deeper, crazier Halo lore. Like we know how awful Oni is. Well, I mean, I guess you haven't gotten into any of the lore besides
Nope.
what I've told you about
Mhm.
Oni, but we know how awful Oni is, how conniving it can be. I wonder if there's like a flood version of that that is just like there's a greater, let's just like say a greater arch Gravemind or something like that that might be pulling strings, like you're saying. Like that'd be very interesting to
Yeah.
see.
This is how the Gravemind in Halo 2 and Halo 3 knew about the events of the Forerunner Flood War that had occurred hundreds of thousands of years prior. The creation of a Gravemind allows the Flood to begin the creation of pure forms as well, and it propels the Flood outbreak into the coordinated stage of evolution, in which they are far more intelligent, deadly, and, you guessed it, coordinated. Graveminds themselves are comprised of pure Flood supercells and the combined and linked neural networks of every single host that was used to create them.
That's why I started off this video how I did, is because it's just the idea of that you're no longer just fighting one hyper intelligence. You are fighting the intelligences of anything it has ever consumed.
Yeah.
You know, it's a level of intellectual sparring that I don't think anybody can really. They say they can understand it, but I feel like you couldn't properly get it unless you tried to, like, I don't know, argue with like 4 AI in a room. Like, and even then, that's just like, machine learning and
Right.
aggregate researching. It's crazy.
This, they command local combat forms and are also able to convey their consciousness through them, which is why in Halo 3 you can occasionally hear combat forms talking to you. This communication is seemingly telepathic, likely making use of precursor neural physics, and is also capable of tapping into Mjolnir Armor's software to make for some incredibly annoying situations. The most recent Gravemind speaks in a very poetic manner, speaking in what is known as iambic heptameter. When asked by Cortana why it speaks like this, it states, "I have the memories of many poets far beyond your limited human culture, and I have the quickness of intellect to compose all manner of poetic forms as I speak, rather than labour over mere words for days." So the Gravemind is quite a sophisticated being. Of course, this hyper-intelligence has to be centralised within a body of some sort, and that body is pretty fucking crazy. A very rough estimate has put the Gravemind in Halo 2 and Halo 3 at around 84.8 meters tall, although I must emphasize
84.8 meters tall. That's roughly 260 some feet.
Yeah.
In length / height.
Mm-mm.
Like that is a tall building worth of biomass and evil staring you in the mouth. Like that's
with teeth.
Like it's and like you can even see the scale here. That's supposed to be Chief right there.
Yeah.
Chief is like 7 feet tall in Mjolnir.
Yeah.
So we like to romanticize the power of Spartans. He's a Ken doll comparatively.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Again, that this is rough. The Gravemind's body is a huge mass of flesh and tentacles, which, as far as we know, can reach for an unknown distance, but if we take Halo 3 as an example, it looks like the tentacles themselves can travel miles, considering they just rise up from the bottom of the Citadel, like, out of nowhere. This intelligence also allows it to be manipulative,
Like a kraken.
even using the corpses and knowledge of beings used to create it to its advantage. For example, when it tried to use what remained of regret to try and convince the Arbiter about the true effect of the Halo rings. Possibly the most manipulative tool in its set, however, is the Logic Plague. Now, I'm sure you've heard this being tossed around on forums or on my channel quite a lot recently, so I'll give you a little breakdown as to what it is. Basically, the Logic Plague is a verbal red pill that can convert non-sentient beings like AIs to the Flood, like in the case of Mendicant Bias, and fingers fucking crossed Cortana. Please, that is the only way to save Halo 5's story. And it
Two things. One, there is nothing I can save Halo 5 story. I will be that Halo fan. I'm not sorry. I will not broach discussion in the comments on that one. That's just my opinion. It ain't gonna change. But secondly, like, it, for the sake of his video, I know why he didn't go into depth, but man, I mean, so I had you listen to, like I said, in previous videos, Human Weakness.
Yes.
That essentially is the Logic Plague. Cortana's rampant fight to stay herself that whole time is the Logic Plague.
Oh, okay.
Nearly forcing her into rampancy, making her question every connection she's ever had, everything she's ever known, using the fact that she wants to know everything against her. You know, there's a line where he plunged her into an ocean of data and knowledge, but if she were to swallow one single gulp, it would drown her. Like,
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what they do to organics, where they take your memories from you. The Logic Plague floods you, floods you with data if you are an artificial intelligence, or an Ancilla if you were a Forerunner AI. But
Yikes.
Yeah.
It can also be used to instill madness into sentient beings, which is exactly what happened to the Didact, and it's why the Didact was in the Krypton. While it's doing all of this crazy jazz, the local environment and remaining sentient beings in it are being infected and assimilated into the Gravemind, which is causing it to grow even more in size and intelligence until it's eventually consumed an entire planet. It's at this point that the Gravemind officially becomes a Keymind, the last stage of a Gravemind, at least that we know. These Keyminds are the complete amalgamation of a planet's ecosystem, organisms, and biodiversity. These bastards are extremely intelligent and are capable of controlling entire fleets of ships with ease, and also to a level that's comparable with contender-class AIs.
That's crazy. This kind of reminds me, and I don't know if you know the mythical creature. I know very little of it myself. The creature, it's Nordic mythology. It's called Jormungandr. I think it's Jormungandr, and if I'm mispronouncing it, for those who follow this religion, I apologize. But I believe Jormungandr is the world serpent, and generally it's what holds up. I think it's what holds up the world in Norse mythology.
Huh.
And
I've never heard of that.
I wonder if a Keymind gets that large to where it essentially is just writhing on the surface of the world, like, but it can like circle it. I wonder if that. I don't want to know, because the idea of that is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
But I wonder if a flood creature has ever gotten that large, or if we'll ever see one get that large.
Such as the legendary Mendicant Bias. Now, although not that much is known about these forms, we do know that they were formed en masse during the Forerunner Flood War, when basically the entire galaxy was infected by the Flood, and it allowed them to truly gain control of precursor tech, such as star roads. Now, star roads are these humongous precursor megastructures, and the Flood used them against the Forerunners with absolutely devastating effects.
Yeah.
Much theorizing was done by the Didact and the Librarian in the final days of the Forerunner Empire about the true extent of these beings, and their true capabilities, with such horrors as the Flood infection of space-time itself maybe even being possible when Keyminds form.
Jeez. you're not even safe in time against these things if they get to a certain power level. Like there's always these really funny fights, like who would win in a fight, Superman or Goku or Master Chief versus Doomslayer. You get to a certain level of the Flood and you can't even run into the safety of time
Yeah,
to escape them.
Yeah.
The only thing that you can do is push the nuclear button on the entire galaxy and hope it starves. Like
Right.
that's the only option, the literal nuclear option.
Yeah.
So that's all for today. That's basically what you need to know about all three known types of Gravemind. Like I said, if you want to read any deeper into their origin or even more details about them, then I would suggest reading the Foreigner trilogy. But for no other reason than that, it's a fantastic trilogy of books. Next time, we're looking at the Cut Flood forms, and then after that, we're going to look at the Halo Wars forms, and then after that, we're going to take a look at the 4 stages of a Flood outbreak and intelligence. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and thanks so much for the continued support, especially on this series. I really appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I like him.
And I'll catch you next time.
Wow. It's almost like heavy learning that shit, because it's like we are lucky to live in a timeline where that's fiction.
That's right. Yeah, I'm very happy that's pretend.
So far as we know.
No. That is pretend.
We'll leave you guys with that spooky thought that, be happy that in our timeline that's fiction. But from a very spooky Strike Teams Reacts video, I am First Strike Cosplay, joined by Mama Strike.
Bye, guys.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Strike hard, strike fast, strike first. We'll see you in the next one.